I'm meteorologist Lindsay Monroe, and we are once again looking at a round of potentially severe weather set to move in on Wednesday. That has prompted a weather impact alert day for that line of storms set to move through. Now, we will see the potential of some scattered storms during the morning hours on Wednesday, likely to stay below severe limits. We're primarily focused on when a cold front is set to move in, and that is likely after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but will continue through the early morning hours of Thursday. So a pretty long duration storm event here Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. Primarily, we're looking at the initial storms to pop up. That's what's going to have that higher hail, large hail potential, as well as rotating storm that would lead to that tornado risk, especially in western and southern Indiana. And then as those discrete storm cells become more of a linear formation or a line of storms, often called a squall line, we reduce that risk of hail and tornadoes, and it becomes more of a straight line wind and damaging wind event. So that's going to be basically the duration of this event on Wednesday. In addition to that, we are anticipating Wednesday night being round one of 3 rounds of very heavy rainfall. That has led to a flood watch to be issued, especially across the southern tier of the state. So I want you to be prepared for this as we get you into Wednesday. Make sure you're monitoring the forecast looking ahead. Tonight, though, this is basically when the leading edge will start to move in. So if you're headed down to the Indians opening night, we've got 6:35 for that first pitch kicking off the season. Will be dry, will be chilly, though. Pretty seasonal for this time of year as we fall back through the 50s. Does not look like we are going to see much in the way of rainfall, though, until much later tonight and then eventually during the overnight. Now, a warm front's going to lift through. In between that warm front and the cold front back to our west, that's where that highest risk of severe weather is going to set up. This is the latest from the Storm Prediction Center. It really hasn't changed much over the last few days. Still looking at the entire state being under that level 3 of 5 for that risk of numerous strong to severe storms. So we'll walk you through the timeline. We're going to pick this up as we go through the afternoon and evening hours today. Now we'll pause here about 2 o'clock in the morning. That's as a warm front's going to start to lift in, noticing that we could see a few storms, especially in northern Indiana, developing kind of on the leading edge of that. Could see some very small hail with that, otherwise not expecting anything as far as severe weather goes. Now that boundary will lift northward, depending on how long we see cloud cover and showers and storms perhaps lingering during the morning hours on Wednesday. That's going to play into how long it will take for the atmosphere to recover, which would ultimately promote that storm development later in the day. In between, though, when we are watching that atmosphere recover Wednesday afternoon, we're going to see a huge surge in temperatures as we climb back basically near 80 degrees. We'll see 40 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts to go along with this Wednesday afternoon, setting the scene, if you will, for when that cold front is set to arrive. Now let's walk you through the timeline. I want to take you to about 5 o'clock in the evening. We're going to start to initially see some of those pop-up storms developing kind of right there in central Illinois, moving into the Indiana border zone. That takes us through 5 p.m. So really this is going to be a very late afternoon, evening event overall. Once this front starts to move closer, those individual storm cells will then start to form a line, but still through about 8 o'clock. This is going to be mainly west of this I-69 corridor. So we're talking Kokomo, Greencastle, Terre Haute. Now embedded within this line, that's when we could potentially see some rotation, some embedded rotation could lead to some isolated tornadoes. That threat will be ongoing through the evening hours, early evening hours, even could see some large hail still embedded within this line. Now, as it makes its way across the state, we will see it slightly losing that parameter that would keep the large hail threat going. Still could see some embedded rotation here. This is 10 o'clock in the evening, but this is more so going to become one of those straight line wind events where it could get damaging wind gusts that would be in excess of 65 to 70 miles per hour. This is 10 o'clock in the evening. We'll advance a little farther. Now we're at 1 o'clock in the morning. At this point, as this boundary is kind of stalled out across the central tier of the state, we could see some redevelopment kind of on the back edge of this. So we're going to keep that severe parameter going through the early overnight hours. In fact, I don't really see this becoming a non-threat until after about really 4 a.m. So this is going to be, again, a long duration event. A lot of it's going to happen while most of us are sleeping. So make sure you've got multiple ways to receive warnings, and just make sure we're kind of still paying attention as we go to bed Wednesday night into Thursday morning, as storms will still be in the area. By the time we get into daybreak Thursday, this is at 7 a.m., severe threat will be long gone. but we're still going to be influenced by that boundary. It's going to stall out just to our south, and it's going to wobble north and south over the next couple of days, and that's going to keep our pattern very active. It's also going to bring in multiple rounds of heavy rainfall that could lead to some localized flooding. Now, with the storms that come through Wednesday night into Thursday morning, we're watching a couple of areas across far southern Indiana, and then this zone kind of right here just north of the I-70 corridor up to about the Fort Wayne area. So we could potentially, out of that first round, see anywhere from 3/4 of an inch to perhaps isolated spots over 2 inches of rainfall, with just the wave coming through Wednesday night into Thursday. Then we've got another round of heavy rain that's going to move through as we get into the late evening hours on Friday into Saturday morning. This puts us through daybreak on Saturday. Notice this round bringing an additional 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. At this point, our totals are really in between about 3 to 5 inches, depending on where we are. But we've got another round of heavy rain anticipated as another cold front comes through Saturday night into Sunday morning. This is going to be your rainfall potential all the way from Wednesday through Sunday. It's a pretty significant amount of rainfall. Now, these numbers here comparable to what we would see during the entire month of April, nearing 5 inches for a forecast around the Indy metro, but it does look like the highest rainfall threat will be across the far southern tier of the state. Now, with numbers like this, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches north, 5+ inches from Indy to Muncie, and then just south of I-70 and upwards of 7 inches of rain during that about 5 to 6 day stretch. That could lead to significant widespread flooding, especially when it comes to our local creeks, our waterways, things like that going to be very elevated, and that could lead to roads being flooded out, situations like that. So just want you to be aware of that flooding potential and that significant amount of rainfall, especially in those low-lying, flood-prone areas that you might have in the back of your mind. You know, when it rains heavily, areas that tend to flood out. So that's going to be certainly possible as we get you into the second half of the weekend. Once all of that rain moves out Sunday, we talked about that being along a cold front Sunday. Early in the morning hours, much cooler air will then move in. We'll start to dry things out, but highs will only be in the 40s. Again, we are headed into a pretty active stretch of weather, and we're going to keep you posted both on air, WTHR Plus, as well as WTHR.com.